What's going on, YouTube? Guitstik Customs here, and I'm still getting used to the TechStar and having that external microphone, so I forgot to turn it on. So let's have a little bit of fun here. I'm doing a install on a SW-Motech skid plate and a larger foot for the side stand. I got the box in from UPS, and a little worse for wear. The packing job on it wasn't very good. Part of the skid plate was sticking out, and I was worried about damage and missing parts. So I'm going to open the box here in just a moment, and I'm going to check and do an inventory of all the parts to make sure that I have everything that is needed for the install of the skid plate. The side stand foot extender is pretty straightforward. So I've got my handy pocket knife that I carry with me all the time. I open up the box, and there's a whole bunch of bubble wrap. A lot of bubble wrap. There's the side stand foot pad. Pretty basic. 3 bolts. Holds it in. Bolts on pretty simple. And what it'll do is it'll keep the side stand from sinking into the mud and gravel whenever it's raining. I have a big problem with that. When it rains, when I park on the gravel, the side stand has a tendency to sink into my driveway, basically, because the engine's idling, the bike is vibrating, and it just works its way into the substrate. So that foot pad will hopefully help out. Here I've gotten some stickers from Revzilla. Revzilla is where I usually get a lot of my parts from. They're usually very good about packaging, sending things out and getting them to you on time. I will leave a link below in the description to where you can find any of this stuff. But this is really difficult. I'm not used to doing a commentary. And here I'm just rambling on. That's the extended foot. You can see how much larger it is than the factory foot. Basically, the factory is just a piece of pipe that's been flattened out on one end and made bigger. That's the new skid plate. It is a hefty piece of aluminum construction from SW-Motech. It's definitely a very good looking piece. This bag was ripped open, and I was afraid that there were going to be parts missing, and so I had to do an inventory. And it's usually a very good idea to go ahead and do an inventory of the parts that you have: nuts, bolts, washers, spacers, anything like that that you're going to need for doing an install on a part. And these are the instructions. And absolutely nobody ever expects the Spanish Inquisition. So I'll just keep rambling on, not realizing that the mic's not working. Here I'm putting some blue Loctite on one of the bolts for the foot pad. You can see how much larger that is. That's a huge foot pad. It's going to take some time for me to get used to it because it doesn't actually sit level on the ground when you're putting it on solid like concrete or asphalt. But when you're putting it into sand or gravel like I do in my driveway, then this is going to be a definite benefit to keeping the bike sinking in any deeper and leaning over precariously, so to the point of almost falling over. So I have a scratchy beard, and it's hot outside, and I'm sweating, and I'm just rambling on, and I'm talking to the mic and not realizing that it's not on. scratch my back, and ramble on, and ramble on, and ramble on. There's really not an awful lot for me to say. Here I'm doing an inventory of all the parts that need to be needed for installing this skid plate. I've actually identified pretty much all of the bolts, the brackets, the hardware. It's the washers that are difficult to identify because they don't specify the sizes of the washers. They don't specify the holes. They don't specify the bolts that they go to. The only washers that I actually know or where they go to are the 6 black ones there at the lower portion. You'll see up in the center section of the, right behind the tire, there are 4 spacers. Those spacers won't be used on my bike because I already have a center stand. Those spacers are specific to bikes that do not have a center stand. I ordered my center stand from Suzuki. SW-Motech actually manufactures a center stand. My concern was that this skid plate was not going to work with the manufacturer's center stand. I've moved the bike outside onto my concrete pad. Problem is that I'm in a catch-22 situation. If the skid plate does not work with my center stand and my bike, I need to send it back and get a refund for it. But to find out if it works, I have to mount it to the bike. To mount it to the bike, I have to remove the existing factory shroud, and to do that I'm going to have to destroy it. Well, not actually destroy it, but I'm going to have to do some damage to it, because if you remember in my oil change video, one of the bolts does not want to come out. So I'm going to be at a loss for this. This is exhausting. I'm not used to doing commentary. I'm used to just being able to ramble on to the camera and then editing when I need to. I can't wait till they get to the point where I actually turn the microphone on and realize that it was off all this time. Yeah. It's a nice little bike. That's a nice hefty piece of equipment right there. And I'm just rambling on. And on and on and on and on. Scratch my ear. And just rambling on. Ramble, ramble. That's the bolt that it doesn't want to come out. It's froze up in there. I'm going to have to do some serious damage to it to get it to come out. Actually, I'm going to have to do some serious damage to the shroud that covers the exhaust and the oil filter. But if you'll notice how much coverage that is around the engine, and later on in the video you will see how much more open the SW-Motech is. There's a huge difference in the two. And if you look at the bike, it's leaning over. One thing I found out is that there are going to be several bolts that have to come out of the center stand, and one that has to come out of the side stand on the motorcycle. See the damage that I had to do? I had to drill that joker out. But as far as the center stand and the side stand, I had to take several bolts out. So I could not leave it on the center stand because there were 2 bolts on the right hand side that had to come out, and then 1 bolt on the center stand that had to come out on the left hand side. Here I'm explaining that if I have to put this back on, I can actually buy the separate section of that shroud from Suzuki. But luckily, as you'll see in the video, the entire SW-Motech worked perfectly on this motorcycle. So here I'm rambling on, rambling on, rambling on. And it's hot. And it's really hot. and I have a beard, and it's hot. Okay, here I'm identifying the bolts that need to come out. These are 2 bolts on the right hand side that come out on the center stand. I'm mistaken on the bolt that needs to come out on the left hand side. I'm thinking it's that bolt there, but it's actually the front bolt on the side stand, and I'll show you that later on in the video. That is the bracket that goes underneath the motorcycle and holds the rear end portion of the skid plate from SW-Motech. And I'm rambling on. I actually don't know what I'm talking about. I actually, I'm trying to make it look like I do know what I'm talking about, but, when I scratch my ear and take my headphones off and, just ramble on and sweat to the oldies, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm making up as I go along, like I am now. Okay, here we go.
All right. Narration portion is over. I'm still getting used to this TechStar. So I didn't have any audio, and this is kind of tricky because on the left hand side of the bike, the bolt that you're taking out is not the one on the center stand. It is actually this bolt here that comes off the side stand. So it's rather tricky when you don't have a motorcycle jack and you rely on your center stand for keeping the bike upright for when you're doing maintenance. I don't have a bike stand. Might have to rectify that one of these days. But I hope the narration wasn't too distracting. Forgot to turn it on. I'll get used to it one of these days. We'll see. The light for the mic is actually on the back of the mic. Alright, hopefully this video doesn't turn out too badly. In the narration portion, when I was putting the foot pad on, I was showing you that to use thread locker. That's not an important component, but you still don't want to lose parts as you're riding down the road on a motorcycle. This is an important component. You don't want to lose parts off of that. You don't want to lose parts off the center stand. Anything that's huge that can come off and cause damage while you're riding, your best bet is to use thread locker on it. So I'm going to use thread locker on this bolt here. I'm going to put it in the hole, and then I'm going to tighten it down to the specifications in the instructions. Again, I'm using the instructions even though I'm a man, because I want to be safe on the motorcycle. Always safety first, never last. So for anyone that's wondering and you've ordered this kit and you don't have the center stand, these spacers here, and I'm chasing one around, are for if you don't have a center stand. So I'm going to have parts left over. I'm going to put these new bolts in. I'm going to put some Loctite on it, snug it up. I'm not going to tighten it up right away because I want to get everything put together before I do that, and that should be it. Brackets on. So I need to come back and torque those down. I ended up not using the bolts that were supplied with the SW-Motech kit. I went ahead and reused the ones that came out from the factory because they're already part of a kit. This is basically for the ones that come out of the kit, are basically for bikes that don't have skid plate or any type of protection for that matter. Now I'm fixing to bolt these up. I've got the rubber mount isolators in, I've got the bushings in. The only thing that's left to do is I'm going to have to put this mount on. It goes on the front right there, and then there's two of these that clip on the bar in the front. This kit is specific for bikes that already come from the factory with an engine guard, because of that bar that goes across the front right here. I'm gonna have to reroute these wires for the lights. But if you've got a Suzuki DL1000 2014 to 2018 without the engine guards, make sure you buy the kit that is for non-engine guard bikes, because then you'll have the bar that comes with it. Probably a little bit more expensive, I don't know, but let me get back to it. A couple of top tech tips of the day. If you're using the kit with factory engine guards, pardon me, it's hot out here, my brain's gone. The kit comes with several different diameter bushings, rubber grommets. They go into here. Now, if you look at them, they're different top to bottom. And that's a locator, because that notch goes, this goes right in that notch. And these factory Suzuki bars use the smaller spacer. Another tip, this bracket goes on the back side. Ask me how I know. Don't tighten anything up until you have everything lined up and ready to be, you know, make sure everything lines up and it's where you want it. Then go ahead and tighten everything up. Make sure you've got blue Loctite on it, because it would suck to have that thing rattle free and roll up underneath your tire and throw you off the bike. So, but as you can see, I'm getting close to getting it done. That's how it looks. A lot more airflow in here to get heat off of the exhaust and to keep heat off of the oil filter. And I appreciate Cooking Green Bastard Style for suggesting that I change out the oil filter to a Flow P2. I've looked into it, about $116 for that. I might do it. It's going to make oil changing an awful lot easier, because I don't have to take the skid plate off to do the oil change, but I do have to do an awful lot of cleaning, because it's going to drain down into the oil pan, into the skid plate. But it's not a bad looking piece of kit. Looks pretty good. I still need to get everything tightened up and put together, but it's hot out here. It's 97, feels like 112. That's what the heat index is. And I'm drinking plenty of fluids and sweating them out as quickly. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't like this video, because the first half of it I forgot to turn the mic on and it all went to, you know, commentary, give me a thumbs down. Let me know in the comments what you think about the video. If you'd like to see more videos, but without the commentary and with an active mic working properly, turned on, operator error, my bad. If you wouldn't mind, hit that little red subscribe button, ring the bell, and you'll get notifications for whenever I put up a new video, which here lately has been pretty infrequent. And go ahead and follow me on Instagram at Guitstik_customs. I think that's about it. I usually let people know what my next projects are. I try to, anyways, but I'm rambling on. Crazy from the heat. Check out these videos over here. You might find something you like. Who knows? I will talk to you all later. I'm going to go inside and get some more cold water. Bye.